For 9 seasons, Night Court turned a Manhattan courtroom into the most gloriously chaotic place on American television. The cast that walked those halls became some of the most beloved faces of the entire decade. But the lives they lived away from that bench? That's where the real stories begin. Number 1, we have Harry Anderson as Judge Harry T. Stone. 31 years old when Night Court first aired in 1984, Harry Anderson brought something genuinely unusual to the role of Judge Harry Stone. He was a real working magician who had stumbled into television almost by accident. And that offbeat, slightly anarchic energy made the character feel completely unlike anything else on primetime at the time. Across all 193 episodes, he was the irreplaceable center of the entire show. In his personal life, his first marriage to Leslie Pollock lasted from 1977 to 1999 and produced 2 children before he found a second chapter with Elizabeth Morgan in 2000. A relationship that held steady until the very end. Away from the set, he was deeply devoted to the city of New Orleans, where he lived, performed magic, and owned a beloved nightclub for years before eventually relocating to North Carolina. Harry Anderson passed away on April 16, 2018, at just 65 years old. His cause of death was a stroke, a loss that hit the Night Court community with a grief nobody was remotely prepared for. Number 2, we have Selma Diamond as Bailiff Selma Hacker. 63 years old when Night Court began, and already a living legend of American comedy long before the show ever found her. Selma Diamond had spent decades as one of the very few female writers in the golden age of television, crafting jokes for some of the biggest names in the business at a time when women behind the camera were practically invisible. As the gravelly-voiced, completely unflappable Selma Hacker across 36 episodes, she turned every line reading into something effortlessly funny. She never married, and famously joked that her career had simply left no room for it. A punchline that contained more truth than comedy. A lifelong heavy smoker, she was diagnosed with lung cancer during the show's 2nd season and kept working right through it with a professionalism that left her castmates in awe. Selma Diamond passed away on May 13, 1985, at just 64 years old, and her death hit the show so hard that her character's passing was written directly into the storyline. Number 3, we have John Larroquette as Dan Fielding. 36 years old when the show premiered, John Larroquette took Dan Fielding, the most aggressively self-serving, woman-chasing prosecutor in television history, and played him with such committed, shameless comic energy that he won 4 consecutive Emmy Awards for the role. Now 78 years old in 2026, the contrast between Dan Fielding and the real man behind him could not be more complete. He has been married to Elizabeth Cookson since 1975, 50-plus years with the same person, 3 children, a family life built with a quiet steadiness that Fielding would have considered catastrophically boring. Beyond the marriage, he has been openly candid for decades about his past struggle with alcoholism, celebrating over 40 years of sobriety. A personal victory he has spoken about with the honesty and lack of self-pity that has made him one of the most genuinely respected voices on that subject in the entire industry. Number 4, we have Marsha Warfield as Roz Russell. 32 years old when she joined the show in 1986, Marsha Warfield stepped into a role that had already claimed 2 previous actresses, and made Roz Russell so completely and distinctly her own that it's almost impossible to imagine anyone else in the part across her 136 episodes. Now 72 years old in 2026, her personal life held a chapter she kept carefully private for years. She came out publicly as gay in 2017, and explaining that she had stayed in the closet specifically to protect her mother, a decision made out of love rather than shame, and one she discussed with a directness and warmth that earned her enormous respect from the community she finally stepped fully into. Before Night Court, she had built a solid stand-up comedy career, and that foundation gave Roz a credibility and comic timing that pure acting training rarely produces on its own. Number 5, we have Richard Moll as Bull Shannon. At 41 years old when Night Court began, Richard Moll stood 6 feet 8 inches tall and shaved his head for the role, creating one of the most immediately recognizable physical presences in the history of American sitcoms. Bull Shannon was the gentle giant at the heart of the courtroom, and Moll played that sweet, or slightly bewildered innocence across all 193 episodes with a warmth that made Bull one of the most genuinely beloved characters the show ever produced. In his personal life, he was married to Laura Klass from 1988 to 1992, then to Susan Brown from 1993 to 2005, with whom he had 2 children. chapters he navigated away from the spotlight with the same quiet gentleness his most famous character embodied. Away from Night Court, he was a prolific voice actor across dozens of animated series, a career dimension most casual fans never knew existed. Richard Moll passed away on October 26, 2023, at the age of 80. One of the most recent losses this cast has suffered. Number 6. We have Florence Halop as Florence Kleiner. 62 years old when she joined Night Court in 1985 to fill the void left by Selma Diamond's passing. Florence Halop brought a completely different energy to the female bailiff role. Sharper, more street-smart, with a delivery that felt like it had been honed across 40 years of working in the entertainment industry, because it had. She had been a child actress in the 1930s and a radio performer in the 1940s before television found her again in her 60s, giving her one of the most unlikely late-career revivals the industry has ever produced. In her personal life, she had been married to George Gruskin from 1948 until his death in 1976, raising 2 daughters together through a marriage that lasted nearly 3 decades. Florence Halop passed away on July 15, 1986, at just 63 years old. From lung cancer, the same disease that had taken Selma Diamond the season before, or deepening the eerie sense among fans and cast alike that the female bailiff role carried a genuinely tragic shadow. Number 7. We have Brent Spiner as Bob Wheeler. 36 years old during his recurring appearances between 1985 and 1987, Brent Spiner played Bob Wheeler, possibly the unluckiest man in the history of the Manhattan court system. Across 7 episodes that gave him a showcase for a physical, rubber-faced comedy completely unlike anything he would later become famous for. Now 77 years old in 2026, the role that defined his entire career was still ahead of him when he walked those night court halls. Data on Star Trek. The Next Generation turned him into a global icon just 2 years after his last Bob Wheeler appearance. In his personal life, he married Laurie McBride in 2001, and the two have one son named Jackson together. A warm, grounded family life that he has spoken about with genuine gratitude. His affection for Night Court never faded either. He returned to play Bob Wheeler in the 2023 revival series, delighting an entirely new generation of fans. Number 8. We have Ellen Foley as Billy Young. 33 years old when she joined Night Court for its second season in 1984, Ellen Foley brought a bright, quick-witted energy to public defender Billy Young across 19 episodes that made her departure after just 1 season genuinely felt by viewers who had quickly warmed to her. Now 74 years old in 2026, most music fans know her name for something that has nothing to do with television. She is the woman whose voice soared across one of the greatest rock recordings ever made, singing opposite Meatloaf on Paradise by the Dashboard Light, a performance that has been played billions of times across 5 decades. She left the show after 1 season specifically to return her focus to her music career, a decision that made complete sense given what she was walking back toward. In her personal life, she married writer Doug Bernstein on April 29, 1990. And the two have raised 2 sons together in a life built equally between music, theater, and family. Number 9, we have Charles Robinson as Mac Robinson. 38 years old when he joined the show for its second season, Charles Robinson brought a quiet, steady warmth to court clerk Mac Robinson across 180 episodes that made him one of the most essential and consistently underrated members of the entire ensemble. A veteran of the actor's studio with serious dramatic credentials behind him, he brought a depth to Mac that elevated what could have been a purely functional supporting role into something genuinely human and memorable. In his personal life, he was married 3 times, to Arvis Robinson, then Venus Duran, and finally to Dolorita Noonan Robinson from 1996 until his death, having 4 children across those chapters of his life. Charles Robinson passed away on July 11, 2021, at the age of 75, from cardiac arrest and organ failure following septic shock and metastatic adenocarcinoma, a loss that came just weeks after Marky Post's own passing. Making the summer of 2021 one of the most grief-filled seasons this cast ever experienced. Number 10, we have Karen Astin as Lana Wagner. 28 years old when Night Court first aired in 1984, Karen Astin played court clerk Lana Wagner across 14 episodes during the show's opening season, bringing a warm, natural likability to the role that made her sudden disappearance from the show one of the most talked-about behind-the-scenes mysteries of that entire year. Now 70 years old in 2026, what actually happened has never been fully settled. Astin herself stated she was let go after being diagnosed with Bell's palsy, a condition causing facial paralysis, which producers allegedly felt was affecting her performance on camera. A separate account from a set comedian claimed her removal came after a violent altercation with Harry Anderson himself. Both stories circulated for years, and neither was ever officially confirmed or denied, leaving one of Season 1's most likable faces connected to one of the show's most unresolved backstage questions. In her personal life, she had been married to Chris Slava from 1975 to 1982, a chapter she moved on from quietly long before the night court controversy ever found her. Number 11. We have Mel Tormé as himself. 58 years old when he first appeared on Night Court in 1984, the man they called the Velvet Fog brought one of the most genuinely distinctive musical presences in American entertainment history into that Manhattan courtroom across 10 recurring appearances spanning the entire run of the show. While the connection wasn't manufactured for television, Harry Anderson was a real and devoted Mel Tormé obsessive, and that genuine admiration translated into a warmth on screen that no scripted dynamic could have produced. Tormé himself openly credited Night Court with introducing his music to an entirely new generation of younger viewers, effectively giving his career a second wind at exactly the right moment. In his personal life, he was married 4 times, to actress Candy Toxton, then Arlene Miles, then Jeanette Scott, before finally finding lasting partnership with Ali Severson in 1984, who remained by his side until the very end. Mel Tormé passed away on June 5, 1999, at the age of 73 from complications following a stroke. Number 12, we have Paula Kelly as Liz Williams. Our 41 years old when she joined Night Court for its first season in 1984, Paula Kelly brought serious, Juilliard-trained credentials to public defender Liz Williams, a level of dramatic depth that earned her an Emmy nomination for the role and made her departure after just 1 season feel like a genuine loss for the show. Her background as an accomplished dancer gave every scene a physical grace that pure acting training rarely produces on its own. In her personal life, she married British director Don Chaffee in 1985, and the two had 1 daughter together before his death in 1990 ended that chapter far sooner than anyone expected. She later found companionship with George Parkington from 2003 onward, a relationship that brought her steadiness through her later years. Paula Kelly passed away on February 8, 2020. She at the age of 77, a performer of real substance whose single season on this show represented only a fraction of what she was genuinely capable of. Number 13, we have John Astin as Buddy Ryan. 54 years old during his first Night Court appearance in 1984, John Astin brought one of the most beloved and recognizable faces in American television history into the courtroom as Harry's wonderfully unhinged father figure across 11 recurring episodes. Most of the world will always know him first as Gomez Addams, a performance so completely and joyfully committed that it became permanently embedded in the cultural memory of multiple generations. Now, an extraordinary 96 years old in 2026, making him the oldest living member of this entire cast by a considerable margin. In his personal life, his most publicly known marriage was to actress Patty Duke from 1972 to 1985, a relationship through which he raised her son, Sean Astin, who went on to become one of his generation's most recognizable actors. Since 1989, he has been married to Valerie Ann Sandoval, a partnership that has now lasted over 3.5 decades, and counting. Number 14, we have Jolene Lutz as Lisette Hochheiser. 26 years old when she joined Night Court for its 8th season in 1990, Jolene Lutz brought a bubbly, scene-stealing energy to receptionist Lisette across 46 episodes during the show's final 2 seasons, becoming one of the most fondly remembered additions to the later cast, despite arriving relatively late in the run. Now 62 years old in 2026, her path after Night Court ended took one of the most dramatic turns of anyone connected to this series. She walked away from acting entirely, first transitioning into professional stunt work, then stepping away from the entertainment industry altogether to retrain as a clinical psychologist. In her personal life, she was married to David Lutz from 1984 until 1991, a marriage that ended around the same time her television career was at its most visible, making those years a period of significant personal transition happening simultaneously with her professional peak. Number 15, we have William Utay as Phil Sanders. 37 years old when Night Court began in 1984, William Utay became one of the show's most quietly beloved recurring presences across 35 episodes spanning the entire 9-year run. First as Phil Sanders, the wealthy but deeply miserable lackey to Dan Fielding, and later as Phil's twin brother Will after the writers memorably killed Phil off by dropping a piano on him. The fact that the show simply invented an identical twin to bring the same actor back tells you everything about how much the writers and producers valued what Utay brought to the ensemble. Now, 78 years old in 2026, he has maintained an almost complete wall of privacy around his personal life throughout his entire career. No documented relationships, no public record of marriage or partnership, letting the work speak entirely for itself across decades of consistent, reliable character acting. Number 16, we have Marky Post as Christine Sullivan. 34 years old when she joined Night Court for its third season in 1985, Marky Post stepped into the public defender role and made Christine Sullivan the emotional and moral center of the entire show across 159 episodes. The warm, principled heart that kept the courtroom's glorious chaos from spinning completely off its axis. Her chemistry with John Larroquette became one of the most beloved will-they-won't-they dynamics in 1980s television, a slow burn that kept viewers invested for years. In her personal life, she married writer and actor Michael A. Ross in 1982, the same year she joined The Fall Guy, 3 years before Night Court found her. And the two remained completely devoted to each other for 39 years, raising 2 daughters together in a marriage that endured everything the industry could throw at it. Marky Post passed away on August 7, 2021, at the age of 70. After a long and private battle with cancer, her passing coming just weeks before Charles Robinson's own death, turning that summer into a period of profound collective grief for everyone who had loved this show. Number 17, we have Jack Riley as Beepo the Clown. 51 years old during his Night Court appearances in the mid-1980s, Jack Riley brought one of television's most reliably funny recurring gags to life. Beepo the Clown, the childhood entertainer whose very existence sent Judge Harry Stone into a spiral of barely suppressed trauma and Dan Fielding into barely suppressed rage. It was the kind of absurdist recurring bit that only works when the performer playing it understands exactly how committed the joke requires him to be. And Riley was absolutely that performer. Most television fans of a certain generation know him best as the perpetually complaining Mr. Carlin from The Bob Newhart Show, a character built so completely on neurotic dissatisfaction that it became one of the defining comic creations of 1970s American television. In his personal life, he was married to Ginger Lawrence from 1970 until his death. 46 years with the same person, 2 children, a life built with a warmth and stability completely removed from the anxious characters he spent his career playing. Jack Riley passed away on August 19, 2016, at the age of 80. Number 18, we have Denice Kumagai as Quan LaRobinson. 28 years old when Night Court began in 1984, Denice Kumagai appeared across 18 recurring episodes spanning the show's entire 9-year run as Mac's Vietnamese wife Quan Le, a character whose beautifully literal interpretation of American idioms and customs became one of the show's most consistently charming running threads. The role required a precise comic timing that made the humor feel warm and human rather than reductive, and Kumagai navigated that balance with a delicacy that gave Quan Le a genuine dignity beneath every laugh the character earned. Her personal life has been kept in complete privacy throughout her entire career. No documented relationships, no public record of any kind beyond the performances themselves. A wall of privacy she has maintained just as completely as the show's run was long. She stepped away from the spotlight after Night Court ended and has remained there ever since, leaving Quan Lo as the lasting, fondly remembered testament to everything she brought to that courtroom.